Okay. Tehilim Tzadi, day 2, take 2, take 2.
What?
Okay, because this is the second time we're learning it and we're starting over again for tonight. Okay. And the game plan is to reread the translation. And this time we are going to try to identify the major questions. I think it would be we'd be wise to not get bogged down on the minor questions, and just keep our eye on the major questions. But we'll formulate them as we go, and then try to figure it out on our own, and then do the Meiri. Okay. So Tefilah Moshe Isha Elohim Adonai Ma'on Ata Hayisa Lana B'Dor Dor. A prayer of Moshe, man of God, my Lord, an abode you have been for us in each generation. And our questions were: what is the significance of the intro? Like, what does Tefilah L'Moshe mean? Why Ish HaElokim, right? Yeah, okay. And then the major question: in what sense is God an abode? It's a weird mushal. It's not even an anthropomorphism, right? You're not even describing God in human terms. And I wanted to point out that the source of the phrase is in this bracha to, I think it is to Asher. Ma'ona elokei kedem u'mitachas v'rot olam v'yigarsh mipanecha oyev v'yomer hashmeid. So ma'ona elokei kedem, the same word here, is habitation. Okay, strange. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, and that's the pasuk, by the way, that the Rambam quotes as the source of the idea that God is eternal. Okay, so that's something. Yes, right. Yeah. So the kedem part I understand, right? But he quotes the whole thing. Okay. B'terem harim yuladu. Vatcholol eretz v'sevil u'mi'olam ad olam atakal. So before mountains were born and the earth was an inhabited world were formed, from forever until forever you are God. Yeah. Actually, maybe we should read the whole thing. Let's read the whole thing first, and then we'll go ask the questions. I think it's better to get the flow. Tashef eresh ad daka, you return man to crushed dust, and vatomer, and you say shuva b'nei adam, and you say return sons of man. Okay, and I think we toyed around with the translation of you reduce man to crushed dust, but I think it actually works better with return because you get this weird double tashev enosh ad daka vatomer shuva b'nei adam. Right, it's a little bit of a, I don't know if it's pun or like just a play on, whatever, some sort of play on words there. I switched it to yours, Chaim. For 1,000 years in your eyes are but a bygone yesterday. And a watch in the night.
I know we want to get the flow.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. If it's a powerful question that you can't hold back, then go ahead and ask it. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you asked this last time, but it seems to me, at least at a face value, that 1 and 2 are definitely like praises of God and intro.
Yeah.
Then 3 kind of gets into like some sort of relationship, and then 4 goes back to praises almost. To me, for 1,000 years, you know, as about a blog on yesterday,
right?
It seems like a praise to God, right?
Interesting.
You talk about the godless of God.
Yeah.
It kind of breaks up like the flow a little bit.
Right.
Maybe I'm just.
I hear. Yeah. So let me just repeat that for the thing is that Chaim's saying that he thinks that the first 2 psukim are intro and really have to do with praise of God. Then it goes to like, how do you characterize the third part?
Like a relationship between man and God.
Relationship between man and God. And then Chaim saying that the 4th pasuk is returning to praise of God, and Isaiah disagrees. Yeah, why?
I don't think it's saying God is great because days to him are like 1,000 years to him is like a day. God is not.
Right. It seems to me the continuation of the contrast, right? Of 3. I think.
You're saying contrast between man and God?
Yeah. Right, meaning 1,000 of man's years is like 1 day of God, and a watch in the night. Yeah. Okay. Zramtam Shena Yihiyu Baboker Kechatzir Yachalof. So that was the difficult one to translate. You flood them in sleep. In the morning, they are like. So I decided on renewed grass. We said it literally means to change, but this sounds like it is a good thing, right? Like in the morning, you're refreshed. Okay, renewed grass. And then 6, Baboker Yatzitz V'chalaf. In the morning, it blossoms and is renewed. La'erev Yemolel V'yavesh. In the evening, it is cut and dries out, I guess. Okay. Ki chalinu ve'apecha uvachamascha nifhalnu. For we are consumed by your anger and confounded by your wrath. Shata avonosenu lenegdecha alumenu limaor panecha. You have set our iniquities before you. our immaturity or our hidden sins. Alamina was a machlokas there, before the light of your countenance. For all of our days have passed in your fury. Our years have been consumed like a fleeting. So we said it's either thought, word, or sigh. Okay, hege.
Sigh is very poetic.
It is, yeah. Yemeshina seinu v'hem shivim shana v'im bigvuros shmonim shana v'rahba amel v'aven ki gaz chish v'na'ufa. For the days of our years, among them are 70 years, and if with might 80 years, and their pride is but toil and grief, for it is quickly cut off and flies away. Mi yodea ozapecha, who knows the strength of your anger? Uchiyirasacha evrasecha, and how did I translate this here? And as you are feared, so is your fury. Limnos yameno kain hoda v'navi lavav chachma. Teach us to count our days, and thus, I translated kain as and thus, we will attain a heart of wisdom. Shuva ad Hashem ad masai, return or relent Hashem. You know, actually, I think I wrote relent, right? No, I didn't. Okay, return Hashem until when? Oh yeah, vihinachem al avadecha, relent regarding your servants, or change your mind regarding your servants. Sabeinu v'boker chasdecha, satisfy us in the morning with your kindness, unranana, and we will sing in joy, v'nismacha b'chol yaminu, and we will rejoice in all of our days. Yeah, right. 15. Samachenu kimos inisanu shenos ra'inu ra'a. Gladden us in. So I don't know how we translated it last time, but I modified it to gladden us in accordance or corresponding to the days that you afflicted us. Meaning, like, I think the ka here is like equal to, you know, like to compensate kind of. The years that we saw evil. Then we got the weird conclusion. Samchenu, sorry. Yira'eh el avadecha fa'alecha v'hadarcha al b'neihem. May your works be seen by your servants, and your majesty upon their children. Vihi noam Adonai Elohinu aleinu uma'aseh yadenu konana aleinu uma'aseh yadenu konanehu. May the pleasantness of the Lord our God be upon us. Our handiwork established for us. Our handiwork establish it. Okay. Yeah. So what we said last time in terms of the pivot, just to start with that, is we said that the first 11 psukim seem to be all negative, angry, rebuky psukim for the most part, right? Except for the intro with the praise of God. Then we've got this the end part is bakashos for like pleasantness type stuff, and then in the middle seems to be a hinge in some way, that on the one hand we're asking God to teach us to count our days, and that was like one of the themes here, is like the fleeting nature of man, but we're saying that we will attain a heart of wisdom, and then apparently like on that basis we're asking Hashem to like change his mind, and then we're asking him about all the good stuff. So that was what we got last time. Mashiach. No. Or is that what you're saying? You're saying it seriously or as a joke?
No,
Okay. So I guess like the we can add, let's translate it into a question here, right? So what is the pleasantness at the end, right?
Well, because the only reason I said that is because it seems like the hinge is talking about some sort of wisdom that we're thinking, and that's going to lead to that pleasantness. That was, and maybe I'm very influenced by like the past couple like Prague and Udon.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of like where my mind's
Yeah, I'm influenced, if anything, by the minhag to say this pasuk at on Motzei Shabbos, right? Yeah, because a lot of Motzei Shabbos stuff has to do with like Nachama for you know, like Mashiach stuff. Yeah, Yosef.
It's just interesting that what's it called, that we're asking God, like, seems like to have some different philosophical outlook on like life, and then we ask for our handiwork to be established. So first of all, what's our handiwork, and second of all, what is that? What does the handiwork have to do with counting our days and like all these things about how man is like temporary?
Okay, right. That's very good. Okay, good. So what is pleasantness at the end? Moreover, what does our handiwork have to do with the rest of the perek? You know, when you said that, I noticed a parallel here. Yeah, you see what's the parallel?
That we start off talking about God's handiwork.
Yeah, that is interesting, right? It is a different I'll repeat that. We start off by talking about God's handiwork, Yira'eh el avadecha fa'alecha, and then we talk about our handiwork. And even though it's different words, I think it's still a common theme. You know, you don't need to use the exact same word in order to make a parallelism. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. What other questions or observations do we have here?
I don't know if this is exactly like a specific question, but kind of like what's the theme? Because there, at least I could see a few different topics
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
So let's do that. What is the, so that's really, yeah, I won't list that, I guess, because that's kind of the Adler's first question here, right? What is the major theme or themes?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess you could maybe ask, this is a more detailed question of like what is God's anger here?
Yeah. Okay, that's going to be a bit major question, right? So what is God's what is the yeah, what is the, I guess, nature and focus nature of and focus on God's anger?
Yeah, that kind of irrelevant.
Yeah. It's just very generic, and also it doesn't make like, almost makes it sound like God's anger is connected to our temporality,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah.
What's the transition the 7 is implying? It says 4 we are consumed. Like it's implying there's some transition from 5 and 6 into 7.
Right. So what is the how do we understand the keys? Because it's not just there, right? It's how many keys do we have?
Also 9.
Yeah, we have 9 key hoimenu panaveber sacha, blah blah blah. Key guys ufa 6 and 7. Oh yeah, 7, right? 7 is like that. Yeah. Right.
Also, I have, it says in 5, it says when you flood them in sleep.
Yeah.
Who's the subject of that flooding? Is it the men who have been crushed? Is it like a
right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
is it the 1,000 years?
Right. I mean, it does sound like this is an all-inclusive perek that is talking about all of us, right? I'm gonna assume. I mean, it's a good question, but I'm gonna assume it's talking about all of us, especially when he starts going into. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's all of us, right? The especially 10 makes it sound like it's everyone.
I guess my question is more: is it a din in people? Is it a din in like almost like a din in time? Because it's a weird connection.
A din in time would make a great name for a novel.
It's not coming back between 4 and 5. Maybe there's isn't supposed to be one. Maybe 5 just relate back to 3 also. But it's a weird.
So you know what we should do? We've done this before. We should color code the themes.
Yeah.
Right. So let's do that.
I was gonna ask if you could put 1 and 2 like a different.
Yeah. So let's. I don't think we're gonna forget where the division is, but let's just copy and paste this and keep it down there. Hello, Doc. All right. Yeah. Okay. So let's do this. Okay. So we have intro, which we don't really need to color code, right? No, I'm saying this intro, the stuff about God we do.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. So, well, okay. Well, let's just get all the themes out on the table, right? So we have God's anger, man's temporality. What else? Tshuva.
When you say men's temporality, do you mean like the days of our years kind of temporality, or like
The fact that we have a limited lifespan and that we.
God's greatness compared to man.
God's supporting us in some way.
What do you say, Joseph? God's what?
Supporting us.
Supporting us in some way? Yeah, right. The renewing stuff.
Yeah, the
I mean, you
renewing
could
and
also say-
also at the end, which is like the
At the end, yeah, correct. Yeah, you know what? I should be writing this down. Hold on a second. Yeah, hold on. Themes, right? So we have God's anger, God's eternality. You mean God's yeah.
A lot about his like the different things that he does and different
Power and acts, maybe. Yeah, it's we'll these are loose categories here, right? God's support of man. Yeah. Requests, although we might have to divide that up into its themes. Man's temporality. And tshuva, right? Okay, so let's try to see if we can get this here. So let's do.
They're like calls for tshuva, right?
Yeah, calls for tshuva. I'm not going to write calls for tshuva because I think that that, for example, relent regard concerning your servants might fit into that theme also. Yeah, unfortunately, they don't allow us to pick highlighter categories. Isn't that colors? I mean, yeah. So man's temporality will be green because that's like the plants that wither. Tshuva will be blue because that's like tehilas. It's not like okay. God's eternality.
No, that.
Oh no, God's anger's got to be red.
That's gotta be red.
Yeah, that's got to be red.
Ooh.
Yeah. The request can be yellow because yellow's happy in some cultures. That's true. God's eternality. I feel like, okay, here's the thing. Do we want to say God's eternality and man's temporality is one theme, like the contrast?
So, yeah, I guess so. Sometimes the
Yeah.
is only God's eternality, but
Right, but I feel like that when it does that, that's like a setup for the, like, so let's just start off with this, and we'll see if what do you call it, if it works out, or if we have to change stuff, right? So, an abode you have been for us in each generation, before mountains were born and the earth and inhabited world from forever until forever, you are God. That sounds like all eternality. Now, I know abode could mean like protection, but given what I said about the Rambam, that he says abode is the idea of God's eternality, and given the context here, I mean, it seems like this is what we have to understand abode, but it sounds like it's part of this idea of eternality here, Okay. You return man to crush dust, and you say return sons of man. So this is like man's temporality, right? We said that that's like returning to the dust.
Yeah.
Hold on, this is, yeah. That's the same thing, right. Oh, maybe we should have a different color here. All right,
you
fine.
say return sons of man,
Dark
it sounds
green.
like-
Yeah.
Oh.
It doesn't matter that we can't see it. Oh, you can see it on the screen better than I can see it here because my screen's dark. Yeah.
I was gonna say this part sounds like a different one. But
Yeah.
no, we're-
The tshuva, right?
I
Tshuva is
was going to say God's anger.
well.
Also-
If we have tshuva and anger as two different I think we should have tshuva and anger as two different categories, right? I mean, I see how they're related. Oh, what we should do? We'll use the same solution.
Oh, I think
We'll
are
do
we
light
talking
blue and
about
dark blue.
different senses of return.
Oh yeah, I was learning it as do tshuva.
I was learning to go back to dust.
Oh, okay. No, because I think as you say, return sons of man to
Yeah,
do
you-
tshuva.
you cause people to die.
Shuvu banim.
Well, no, that's the first one is you return man. Second one is you say to man return. First one is a action. The second one's a tzivui.
Hmm.
I think that's the flame shot.
Yeah, it's like Shuvu banim.
Yeah, right. That's how we say it. Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem. Elokacha. So return sons of man. For 1,000 years in your eyes are but bygone yesterday, and it will like a watch in the night, right? So that's also God's eternality, contrasted with man's.
Dust.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Hold on. This is also like 1,000 years, right? That's in man's framework. Yeah. See, I like this system of the dark green, right? Because you get the you still see it's the same theme. And
Just
watching the night. Okay. Yeah.
Just on the whole Shuva thing, Rashi
Yeah.
seems to say that it's return.
Whoa,
from-
we're going to Mefarshim here.
What?
Oh, yeah, we're not going to Mefarshim yet. Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah. Okay. You flood them in sleep. In the morning, they're like renewed grass. So what do we say? That's God supporting man, which we didn't color code yet. Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on whether this can fit into another theme. Yeah, Michael?
Is that not suggesting that we will return to the ground and grow up as grass because our body is decaying?
The circle of life. It's possible.
You're just saying-
I thought it's just a metaphor for the fact that we go to sleep and we wake up refreshed.
I think if you look at the psukim afterward, it makes more sense to say it that way. Because like in the next stuff doesn't sound like I kind of thought maybe this was all muscle for a person, and if it is, then it can't be that he starts with dying.
Yeah, that's also
I
true.
thought it was saying that literally we flood them in sleep. Like people die while they're sleeping and they
Oh.
go to the ground, they're renewed grass, and then it blossoms in the morning and it's renewed and it's cut and dries and saying like that's the end of man. That's what I thought it was saying.
Yeah, I don't know.
A lot to
Yeah,
it.
Chaim?
Can we say anger and wrath are like midas hadin, i.e. midas of nature, i.e. right? Then we can take what
Triple
Michael's
IE.
saying- we get what Michael's saying, and you can take these psukim and you can say that everything through 7, right, is
Yeah.
talking about, like we talked today earlier today about Mishlei, about entropy.
Yeah.
right? And you can say that this is the process, and that you are consumed by your anger, i.e. just the natural law, right? Midas hadin.
Mhm.
And then we are confounded by your wrath. We can maybe say that that's something that like man like tries to understand, like the inner workings.
Mhm.
Like this is showing the process of like what's going on here.
Yeah. So I like the idea of anger as midas hadin, and it is interesting. It makes me realize that there is no actual explicit reference to punishment. In fact, the way that anger is characterized is that that's the default state that we spend our whole days in, which does suggest that it might just be like a laws of nature type thing. Yeah, Isaiah?
I was going to say about this topic, I kind of disagree with what they're saying, is that maybe flood them with sleep is just saying Hashem created man in a way where he's forced to sleep at night.
Right.
You know, he can't go up and like not get tired.
Right.
Night comes and in the morning he's renewed like grass. You know,
Yeah.
it's like he's a new person.
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
morning,
yeah.
And that's what Hashem set up.
Right. So that I think that fits into
What's the connection between that? Is there supposed to be a connection between, I guess 5 and 3 or no?
5 and
Is that
3.
flowing?
Oh.
Meaning, or I guess 3, 4, 5. Is there supposed to be a flow kind of thing, and then like 6, and then that would also like, yeah, no, I think that would at least flow into 6. Is there supposed to be a flow there, or is it supposed to be a break? Because it seems like we're talking about, one thing in 3, and then we get something in 4, and then there's a weird disconnect into 5.
Yeah, the flow is not evident to me right now, but I do think that Isaiah's interpretation fits into what you were saying, which is the fact that we are physical beings subject to nature means that we're forced to sleep, like we have to sleep, and then we're subject to these like sleeping and waking up cycles,
Could sleep be a metaphor for death?
It could, but I kind of agree with Tamar's thing that it's just, I don't know, it's weird. You kill them and then they get renewed. Was that like Tchias Amesim, and then you kill them again, and that's like Misas Amesim?
No,
I mean,
I think it's like lamenting the destruction of man, saying like, oh look, we demise, and then look what happens. We end up in the dirt, and then we just grow into grass. And then it starts to claim that the anger is related to that.
We're confounded by your ways.
I don't think we're talking about the anger right now.
yeah, unless you're going to say that the anger is just the fact that we go through these cycles. So we've established one thing, which is we don't really know what 5 and 6 are talking about right now. Yeah.
I had a question.
Yeah.
About 6, which we haven't read yet. But
Sure.
It says in the morning it blossoms and is renewed. What is it?
It 6 yatzitz. Yeah, good question. Yeah, unclear.
I mean,
Right. Yeah, especially because Yihu is plural, and Yachalov. Yeah. Yeah, Yosef.
For the grass, I mean, it seems like first of all we are the grass,
Yeah.
right? That's the first thing it seems like, and also, maybe it's like kind of the idea of the handiwork thing, right? Which is that God is the one who's like supporting us throughout like our
Mhm.
lives in terms of the physical, so that we could pursue the other
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Right.
In other words, that's
Yeah.
like God supporting the handiwork is like us being able to like sleep and whatnot, so that we can like pursue God.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely hear that theory as well. So what are our theories? Let's just consolidate here. So we have start with the most recent one. So we have, this is talking about God supporting men. Okay. Or this is somehow talking about anger in the midas hadin sense of we are forced to sleep and wake up, and then and forced to sleep and wake up, or death, if you want to say that. Yeah.
I actually like to sleep and wake up. I'm gonna change that.
Okay.
I think that's 5 and 6 are basically saying the same thing almost though.
Yeah, it does sound like it's saying, yeah.
And then I think a big reason that I want to make that connection is because of the key by 7.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's linking back to 6 and whatever ideas that that's expressing.
Mm-hmm.
I think for 6.
Hold on, just 1 second. I just had a thought. Okay, yeah, I'll remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe this is like what Chaim is saying, that in 6.
You're agreeing with him now?
Well, now I think the same. Similarly,
Ah.
in 6, the it that is blossomed and renewed in the morning time is like man's experience of life.
Mhm.
He every day he gets a new experience,
Mhm.
gets to do whatever he does during the day, and
Yeah.
it cuts out.
Whereas 5 was.
5 was saying that man's nature is that he has to.
Okay, fine, right. So 5 is like the biological reality, and 6 is like the experiential. I was thinking a different thing, inspired by the Sphinx. Maybe 6 is the morning of man's lifespan. That in the morning you are like renewed and have energy, and then at the end of your life, then you are dried and withered and you get cut off. Just to connect it to the lifespan of man in 10.
Only question on that is renewal seems to connote some sort of process.
We got to remember that renewal is my English translation of chalaf, which just means change. right? It's a planty change. That was what we said, right? It's a botanical change.
We're into an art school. Right?
Yeah.
The sugam together kind of go, meaning the only one word was different, which was for the grass instead of withered.
Yeah.
So that would make it as in that's the first.
You mean
word.
with this is what they translate as withered, the yavish?
They
Yeah.
flood them in sleep. And
Yeah.
In the morning they're withered, but then they blossom and renewed. So it's kind of continuation.
Yeah.
It would make a difference. We're saying renewed twice.
Right. Yeah. You know, I think what we are realizing is we really don't know anything about what 5 and 6 are doing. So I think let's just leave that. Okay. And like we've explored some good things. All right, let's go back on that. Okay. So we are consumed by your anger, confounded by your wrath. What is the angry color? Red. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why'd I have to ask? Yeah. Okay. You have set our iniquities before you, our immaturity.
What does confounded mean?
Confused or astonished or like panicked. Behala.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that I feel like 8, even though it mentions sins, is also part of the anger, right?
Yeah.
Like God is judging us, like He said it before us. Yeah.
It does seem like a shift though, because like the first implication of the anger is like that we have to die. We don't understand why we have to die. And then the next one saying, but we also did bad things and we don't get to see the truth of you.
Right. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
What does it say we died?
The 7 doesn't say any causes of the anger, and 8 is giving an explanation, a justification for the anger. What was that, Yosef?
I mean, what does really consumed mean? Consumed by anger in what way? Because like,
yeah. So
we die, we decay, we are consumed.
By the anger though, like, is that the anger? Like, if you're saying that's just part of the natural life cycle is.
Well, that's what we were theorizing, right? We were theorizing that that this is part of the natural life cycle, but
that's the anger is like, are you saying that Tzaddik has like,
I mean,
God's anger is upon him? Like, would you?
This is Moshe. This is Moshe saying this, and he's including himself in this.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's like a straight anger would be a very strange phrase for that. You know, like why would that be anger?
No, that's a valid question. But like again, the whole it points, I don't know, points to the fact that this anger is like part and parcel of the fabric of our existence. You know,
which is what we call this, which tends to have negative. You know, not negative, but it tends to be more, let's say from our perspective, a more negative, a harsh thing.
Right.
General.
Yeah.
Like nature is something like the law that we're talking about right now is the law of entropy, which is like something that we view as living things as bad.
Right.
We just do.
Yeah. What was that? Yeah.
I didn't hear. I can.
Okay, sorry. He's saying that the way that we relate to so nature is midas hadin, and the way we relate to that is it's a very harsh reality, and so anger is an appropriate thing because this midas hadin is responsible for like all death and deterioration of life.
As living things, we view that.
As living things, we view this as anger. Yeah.
Midas hadin is nature.
Yeah.
Those are the same thing.
Yeah, that's my
like what. But why wouldn't you say like, for example, like punishing someone like Korach, right?
Yeah.
Is that midas hadin?
That's also midas hadin. Yeah. But the primary expression of midas hadin is nature, and that's. I mean, I think this is a unanimous idea in why the is why Chazal say that the first perek of Bereshis is only uses the name Elokim, and then the second perek uses Hashem Elokim, and then the third perek after the Chet is just Yokeh Vavke, because the first perek is just midas hadin. It's just describing God as the source of the laws of nature, and then when it zooms in on Adam and Chava and Gan Eden, it is before the Chet, so it is man existing in the realm of Bechira with the potential for sin, which requires rachamim, but also functioning like on a lechatchila basis of nature. And then after that, then we're totally in a rachamim world, But I think it's midas hadin is the primary meaning of midas hadin is nature, and I'm calling that primary because punishment doesn't relate to any other creature but man. But midas hadin of Elokim, Bereshis bara Elokim relates to all existence.
Right. When we're saying din, we're just saying that versus like
But isn't
I don't want to use the H word. Yeah, that's in 24 minutes. Yeah.
But the thing is that like now I have a question, is just that like you're saying the primary thing is nature, but what is it? Like that's kind of like uncategorical, no? Like you say that the primary thing his nature, but there's also midas hadin by man.
Yeah,
right?
midas hadin by man is a particular expression of the midas hadin that is universal.
So what is the universal?
Universal is that everything operates according to strict cause and effect, and no exceptions are made.
So included in that is God's intervention as well.
Yeah, the midas hadin is not God intervening. Yeah.
So how does punishment work into that?
Punishment. So okay, this is this is okay. Maybe it's possible that we shouldn't be using these categories as a way to explain this. I mean, I not that. In other words, there's a whole thing about what midas hadin is and what midas hadin isn't. Okay, I'll give the brief explanation right now. Is that there's midas hadin shel mala and midas hadin shel mata. Okay, the midas. So this is based on a Ramban in something by Avraham Avinu, I think. Oh, by the Akedas Yitzchak. That there is there's an absolute midas hadin which would warrant that if you do a chet, you instantly cease to exist. Because if you look at everything else in the universe, it operates 100% according to God's will. And if it didn't operate according to God's will, it would it would have no right to exist. It couldn't exist, But with man, God gave man free will. But in order to allow that to happen, then there is a certain mitigated midas hadin where we are allowed to make these mistakes and suffer consequences, not be completely annihilated, so that we could do tshuva. And the whole punishment of man is in that framework of midas hadin. So we're not subject to the absolute midas hadin. Otherwise, we would just totally, lose our right to exist as soon as we went against God's will.
Right.
Sense is at least what happened at Thought was they sinned, they lost a form of existence.
They did lose a form of existence, correct. It was very sad. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go back to the text here. Okay, so for all our days are passed in your fury, our years have been consumed like a fleeting thought, word or sigh. So that is, the fury is God's anger. And then it transitions into the fleetingness, right? Temporality, right? I mean, also corporeality, but yeah, the temporality. Yeah, okay. Is that it? Yeah, okay. The days of our years, among them 70 years, and if with, is that a different color? No, it's the same color. And if with might 80 years, and their pride is but toil and grief, for it is quickly cut off and flies away. So that's also focusing on man's temporality. Who knows the power of your anger? As you are feared, so is your fury. That's talking about God's anger again. Teach us to count our days. What? Teach us to count our days, and thus we will attain a heart of wisdom.
Kind of like Teshuva a little bit to me.
Sorry, hold on just 1 second. I'm gonna pause this. Okay, back to the recording. All right, so teach us to count our days, and thus we will attain a heart of wisdom. So this is an interesting one, right? How do you classify this pasuk? Teach us to count our days, and thus we will attain a heart of wisdom. Right. So the interesting thing, though, it's a link between tshuva and the temporality, right?
That's not really how is that tshuva?
Because we will attain a heart of wisdom, and that is going to be the basis of asking God to change his mind, which is us, I think, responding to this call of tshuva.
Right. This is like a transition from thinking about his temporality back to teshuva, and then.
Yeah. See, this is why I said at the beginning, not based on the last time we learned it. I feel like this pasuk is the main call to action in the entire perek, and it's important that way. Yeah. Okay.
Teaching us to count our days could also be. I think we're saying it's a precursor to Teshuva, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Return Hashem until when? Relent regarding your servants. So I don't know what we're asking when we say return Hashem.
Also, what does until when mean?
Yeah, the question seems nonsensical.
Until when is like in the temporal sense.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, it's interesting. The only thing I can we're not asking Hashem to return. We say Hashem Hashem Allah. Never mind. Relent regarding your servants is asking for rachamim, right? Which could either be. This could either be another form of support. In fact, you could really argue that all of this is purple. right?
I think it's basically saying, like, if God is in a state of midas adin, we would say, do teshuva to midas arachamim.
Right. Yeah, that's what it seems to be. That's the switch over. We can get rid of the purple now because we didn't have requests as its own thing. Yeah, as I thought, that's not gonna be its own thing. And then God's power and his acts. I guess I kind of glossed over that here. I don't know if that's its own theme. Right. I mean, we talk about God's acts in terms of his anger, and we talk about this as a basis. I mean, the closest thing is just this one phrase here: "May your works be seen by your servant, and your majesty upon their children." Yeah, I guess maybe that is its own theme. But I don't
May
know
your works, I think, is connected to teshuva because he characterizes teshuva as counting days.
Mhm.
And like, all right, maybe you don't like, but I looked at her Risha, and he said like counting because through.
You shouldn't have admitted it. Claim it as your own. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to advocate bringing
it was Rashi.
dogs to the world. Yeah.
It was Rashi. So biases, be ready.
Oh.
Intelligence. That like, through chachma you will gain intelligence, and then you will attain a heart of wisdom.
Mhm.
And then over here, may your works be seen by your servants and your majesty upon their children. That's saying you will learn. You'll be able to see things. So it's connecting to the idea of teshuva and saying that's how you gain God's favor.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I think it could be folded into this theme of the result of tshuva, or it could be folded into the theme of tshuva. I don't think this should be its own theme. Yeah, so we'll make it blue just for fun. That is part of that thingy. Okay, so I like my Rishonim from southern France, not from northern France. Let's go to the Meiri. Yeah, no, but should we theorize about this on our own now first, just to consolidate? Yeah.
I had a theory.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think.
As do I. Did you get yours from Rashi?
Did not.
Good. Okay,
No,
then
Rashi
go right
didn't
ahead.
have a theory.
Yeah.
That's based on earlier Rashi that seen in the
Yeah.
Maybe what this is saying that God being in abode is referring to God's, our existence being dependent on God's existence.
Yeah.
And so when he talks about like how we have like a short life is like referring to the fact that like that is an effect of God's independence and our dependence on him, and all of our facets like that we have to sleep at night and that we're given a chance in the morning to partake of the world. That's like a part of our dependence on God. God gave us his nature, and we're only able to work in like the parameters that God set out for us.
Right.
So then how can we but we do have, I guess, like free will, and we're able to act sort of outside of God's ratzon. And I think that's where like the being consumed by anger comes in.
Yeah.
It's like, even though we have a whole existence that Hashem set out for us, we're still like our days have gone by and we haven't done the right thing. We haven't done teshuva yet. So we need to, and then I'm not sure yet about the counting the days that have gone by. I think that sort of is like what's going on in the first half.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good approach. Yeah. Let me try something here. Okay. We'll compromise between the other things here. When David is talking, we'll switch it to 3. Go ahead, David.
Okay.
Hopefully people can hear you.
Okay. Just another thought with the anger idea and working with what Isaiah was saying. There's also like a recognition we could have when someone where there is a power that's over us, and if that power were to get angry with us and they are truly a power of us, they can just decide to do away with us.
Mhm.
And to have then some recognition of God, and then however else you're going to want to put it, of that even when we don't act according to his ways, he is still there is a lot of give there, but if we want to avoid falling under that potential anger, then doing teshuvah will get us under the lack of anger there.
Okay. I hear that also. I feel like this is going to be a question of how much we want to take the route that the anger is punishment and how much of it is just the natural state. I saw Yosef's hand first, so let's go with Yosef first. Yeah, Yosef.
I think that it's actually I think I have a theory of why it's a prayer, but I think it's similar to how we daven, where it's like you have the shevach in the beginning about all the ideas relating to God being the source of all these things, and then you have at the end our request that's on the basis of all those ideas, right?
Right.
In other words, it is like similar to what Isaiah is saying, is like we have like all these ideas of like God is completely in control and he's supplying our natural like just physical existence, right?
Yeah.
And God is completely above that, and God is the only thing that can support that, right? And
Right.
then we have the ideas, and then second side is that we have the ideas of anger, which is that you can use all of these like God is also like aware of your sin. I don't know exactly, but it's like a contrast. It's like kind of like offense to God's support, and then there is the request, which is basically like on the basis that we have like this knowledge of what our kind of purposes with Hashem's like support, can we have God's support, right?
Yeah. Let me just make sure I understand this. So the central question that you're answering is the structural transition from the praise to the request.
Yeah, and like why we have the praise and then the anger and then the request. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Chaim.
Yeah, just a smaller idea,
Yeah.
but going along with what like I'm still pushing forward.
Yeah.
Going along with what I'm still pushing for, which is that the anger represents midos of nature. Right?
Yeah.
Or nature. I want to say that there's a nice bridge between 11 and then the 12, and then the bridge between that, which I'm not necessarily going to call teshuva. Maybe I will. I don't know. But I want to say that we don't like that 11 is talking about nature and the way that things go, and that usually we fear it, right?
Yeah.
But if we are taught to count our days, i.e., to recognize our place in that system, I guess.
Yeah.
Then that leads us to, I guess, a higher level of existence, i.e., Selokim.
Yes.
And and then that kind of links up to.
Okay. I want to elaborate on that as well, but let me go with Michael first. Yeah, Michael.
Okay. Does this read a lot like Eov to you?
Yes. And guess who wrote Eov?
According to one, not according to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, according to Chazal, then Moshe Rabbeinu wrote Eov. Yeah. Yeah. Right. It is very Eovian. Yeah.
It's like Eov, but there are peppers of like moralization.
Peppers of moralization. My
Yeah,
favorite kind of peppers.
Eov wouldn't necessarily say like, "Oh, it's the hate of man that resulted in my pain," but Moshe would throw that in there.
Yeah. Right. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Isaiah.
Okay, so I like what Chaim is saying about the anger, that it being like minas hadin, and maybe what 7 is saying, that we're consumed by anger and confounded by wrath, is that we don't like understand Hashem's ways, and we don't like act in accordance of the understanding of them. So we're consumed. Really, what we're consumed by is like taiva and sin, and not understanding. We're confounded by the nature of the world that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So we sort of sense like we just don't understand. So we're failing to act in line with
So I think that might you're getting this from the confounded part. Yeah. So I think confounded in English does have that connotation, but in Hebrew, what did it say? What puzzle was that? 7? Nifhalnu. Behala is like panic. There is an element of confusion there, but not like ignorance type confusion.
I think it's even better though, for at least what I'm thinking.
What do you say?
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's good. The reason I'm going to say that is because is recognizing that it's Moshe who wrote this.
Yeah.
Recognizing, at least according to Chazal, like what it was that Moshe asked God.
Yeah.
Is that he was trying to understand like the workings of like nature and I guess what was else going on? I mean the other thing. What was it exactly he was trying to understand?
Tzaddik Baralo and Russia right.
It's a natural process.
It's a problem, right? It's a problem against God's justice.
So
yeah.
It seems that he's that being consumed by anger means that you're being controlled by the natural law for the most part, and to be overwhelmed by your wrath is a further. It's not just that you recognize that you're in the system, but you've also like become overwhelmed by that, and that like you're just trying to understand what's going on and you have no idea what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't see this idea of not knowing what's going on. I think the best support you have for that is not the word nifhanu. The best support you have going for that is pasuk tes zayin of may your works be seen by your servants. that there's insufficient, you know, but
that builds off of the above in that good getting into the in line with your existence.
right. Yes, yeah.
I think maybe you could also say that's what it means when it says, "As you are feared, so is your fury."
Mhm.
That like as people come to understand more about Hashem Midas Din, then they grow in their Yiras Hashem.
Right,
And so then they come closer to, being able to count their days,
right.
because they have a truer understanding of.
Yeah, that's actually another. When I said that the most important pasuk is Yud Beis, I think Yud Beis in my mind. I realize I haven't explained my idea yet, but Yud Beis, and then the Uchirascha Evrasacha is. Here's another support for you with the not knowing. Miodea Ozapecha.
Right.
Yeah, I like your idea. I just don't think that you can read that into Nifhalnu. But yeah, Michael.
I was just saying, I think Nivhalnu is kind of like a horror shock, right? It's saying how awesome and terrible the anger is.
Yeah, right.
As opposed to like lack of knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, again, the where this comes up is in the Rambam's Haggadah. You add in, so most nuschos start with halach ma'anya. The Rambam says bivihilu yatanu mitzrayim. We left Mitzrayim in a state of bihilu, of behala, which is the Aramaic translation of chipazon. Which is like panic-stricken haste, terror,
like chaos.
Yeah, kind of. It's more like the reaction to chaos than chaos itself. Yeah.
Okay, well, just to deal with the word Bahala.
Yeah.
And maybe you could say that the Bahala that's resulted from Hashem's anger here is the Bahala of that the emotions will cause when they don't understand, like lacking your knowledge about the world. You replace sort of recognizing the Midas Din and the world, that the system that Hashem set out, by like not recognizing it and being terrified by seeing a world that you don't understand. And like I guess the questions that you have about
right. That's good. That fits in very well with the perek Tzadi Beis with Mizmor Shilem Shabbos is the fool doesn't understand the flourishing of the wicked, and it's because he doesn't understand the Ma'aseh Hashem. Okay, we're gonna stop this here in a little while, but let me just tell you my approach. It's not fundamentally different from what you guys are saying, but I just have a different way of saying it, I think, which is I think that there is a model of teshuva that people think that you need God to get angry at you and then you do teshuva, right? Like you need to see a punishment or you need to see something, and what this perek is doing is it's saying there's anger all around, and what is that anger is the fact that you have a limited number of days and you're slowly dying. And that is divine wrath, and it's wrath in the sense of the nature of man as a physical existence is that he is subject to the malach hamaves, and entropy. And if we really understood that, we would take it as Musar Hashem or Onesh Hashem or Yisurin, and then use it to do tshuva, and then make the most of our life in terms of recognizing God's handiwork, God's works, and then engaging in our handiwork in a different way than before. That's like the arc, according to the way I'm seeing the whole thing, So the question remains, though, I think it's the thing that was bothering Yosef earlier, is like, in what sense are we calling this anger? Like, it seems like a very powerful muscle to use for just the normal workings of the universe. But this is the only place I've seen that has it, like just the very fact that that man lived to 70 or 80 years is anger. I don't know. So I was going to actually use 9 as a further buffer, because this for all days that in your fury. Yeah. Right? I.e., we live out. Yeah, right. That I think that's a good. That's also what my mind was going off of. Yeah, Yosef.
So 2 things. So first of all, it sounds like similar to like in Fate and Death, like Kododija Fake, right? Where like the Rev talks about like the response to like tragedy and whatnot, and like you can't like say whether it's God or not. But also the other thing I want to say is that what was I just saying? Man, I completely forgot.
We were talking about the anger thing and about how it's weird to call it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, fine. The anger. So what is anger for man, right? In other words, anger for man is usually, and I don't know how this translates to God, which is the stranger thing, but it's usually when our will is not like in physical reality, right? In other words, like
Right, meaning reality is not in line with our will.
right, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's I don't know why it's saying that's God's anger. Like it would make more sense to say it's man's anger, but that might be a similarity. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking similar along those lines also. Like okay, this is a the thing is like I don't mean to be insensitive to like people who mourn like the loss of grandparents. But like someone who's 80 years old who dies, lives a long life, it's sad, but people view it as unfair, you know, like in a sense, like people feel that a human being has been taken from, from us. Yeah, it's immortality complex, but I'm saying like we do relate to it as an injustice, and we relate to it as din, even though it's just a natural thing. And I mean, and Chazal endorsed this by saying that we say the bracha Baruch Dayan HaEmes, when there's a death. So it is din, yeah, Ali?
I would say anger is not necessarily defined by the feeling that one has when they're angry, but more of the behavior they display.
Okay, that's
that.
Right.
You could say a display feature would be destruction.
Okay, so let me say that for the thingy. By the thingy, I don't mean your people, but the thingy is the microphone. Ellie's saying that anger is not defined so much as by the emotion, but by the behavior that results. And especially with God, who doesn't have emotions, then we could describe his destructive actions as anger. Yeah.
Just in name of Rabbi Zucker, the way he explained to look at God's anger, like how to characterize that, he referenced the Rambam that Rav Pesach recently went through in the Moreh Nevuchim about it's written Lashon B'nei Adam.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Within that, anger from the perspective of the creation simply means the world is hitting me hard.
Right.
The causes of that might be my hate, but I will characterize that as anger to understand it. So meaning when we say God is angry, we're saying reality doesn't work out for us, like the fact that we all die.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. That's good. Okay, I think we should stop this. Oh yeah. Go ahead, Joseph.
You could say maybe that man's existence is not in line. Like, I mean, that's not really, I don't know, that's a stretch. But sin is not really in line with God's will, and therefore it's anger. Right?
Well, it provokes anger. Right.
Right, but no, but I'm saying that's what prompts the anger, right?
Yeah. Right.
Is that it's like the sin is not in line with God's will, right?
Right.
Reality is not in line with God's will, and therefore it's like what is to us anger, right? When reality is not with our will.
Yeah. So, but I think this is the finish of the perek, is that usually we associate anger with sinning, and what this is doing is it's saying no, our whole existence is anger, and therefore our whole existence should prompt tshuva.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the shift that Moshe is trying to get to us. All right, so let's put this on hold and we'll think about it, and then plan to come back to it on Tuesday. And I'm going to start saying this, to try to say this at the end of every shiur, just so people know what the schedule is. I am starting my break on January 13th at night. Okay, so and then that's going to last through the rest of January. So no shiurim from the night of the 13th through until February, or I guess until January 31st. Okay, all right. So I'm going to stop this and then pause